in between. Right. So welcome everyone to Design Thinking London. We are really excited today because we having our event on cooking with jobs to be done, how to get to customer insights faster. But before we get into it, we would like to give you an intro. And for some reason, my this is not working. Aha, I just need to click. So yeah, we are Design Thinking London, and we are a group of people who believe in creating a place for design thinkers of all levels to come together and share their practice so we can learn from each other. And I want to emphasize the learn from each other. We believe on practitioners level and talking from experience. And this is us. So my name is Carmen. We have today with us my co-organizer, Luisela. Jason couldn't be with us today, but we are the three co-organizers of Design Thinking London, and Anna is our volunteer who also couldn't be with us today. We are present in the usual social media. You can find us on Twitter. We have also Instagram. We have a LinkedIn group, and we have all the events that we can record in our YouTube channel. So check there for any of our other events, or if you want to come back to today's event. And for questions, we have a Slido. So Lou also will post the number in the chat, but you can ask your questions in Slido, or you can post your questions on the chat as well, whichever option makes you feel more comfortable. And when there is not a pandemic, we tend to do live events. We do all sorts of events, like today it's going to be more of a talk with a little activity, but sometimes we have done as well, like just workshops or a mix of the both. And our sponsors are several people who specializes on the UX service design area. So if you are looking for a job or you need some UX service designers, just reach out. And we have a few guidelines for you today. So remember to add your name on your Zoom avatar so we know who you are. During the presentations, just remember to mute yourself and unmute if you want to ask a question. And we remind you we are recording the event. Let us know if you don't want to be in the recording because we can edit that, or if you want, when you ask a question, not to put on your camera, feel free to do that. And as I said, you can ask your questions either in the Slido or the chat. And I'm going to move into actually the talk, which is the most important and why you guys came here today. I'm really excited about this. I'm a huge fan of jobs to be done. I've been using this technique for quite a few years, but I noticed that many people get confused with it. Many people struggle when they start using it. And that's why we wanted to bring some people who know about this technique, know because they have read a book, but from the experience. And Beth and Jan from Ventbridge is exactly this case. They really talk from the practitioner's level, and they're gonna show you how you can use jobs to be done particularly for innovation, which is a part that as design thinkers, we always, are interested in learning. So I'm gonna now leave the room for Beth and Jan to, just tell us all about jobs to be done. Let me just stop sharing.
So that means we are sharing. Hello.
So that means we are sharing. Yeah. So hi, everyone. Thank you very much for the introduction. Let me just quickly find the share screen thing. There it is. All right, so I didn't have it in a better solution, but a resolution, but so you see it here. I just want to say something, and then Beat will take over. So we are. That's very true. We are jobs development practitioners, which is nice to see. Is also that some of you in there who are sitting here are jobs development practitioners yourself, as you mentioned, Carmen. So I think that will be an interesting exchange, and really looking forward to tonight.
Good. Yes. Welcome. Hello, everybody from my side. I would like to first a little bit show very briefly what Ventbridge does before we go into the topic. Ventbridge, we are a core team, and we work with the job to be done logic since many years. Actually, for us, job to be done is a kind of a logic that we use. But what we really do is we spin ideas to growth. So we take innovation ideas, for example, or now after COVID, it's a lot about reinvigorating the business. We take these ideas and we bring the customer focus in it. And jobs to be done for us is just a tool to get the job customer focus done. We work for different kinds of companies in all different industries. It's on the one hand, large companies. I mean, some really super large like Nestle or Hyundai. On the other side, it's also the startups. We work a lot for startups because there we can experiment, and we do it in a sprint, in a very agile, quick version. So that's really our focus. How does this translate? Well, on the left you see the core team. Jan, you've seen. Jan is present here. Then there's Annika and Petra and myself. This is really the core team, and we see ourselves as a competence group for growth, customer-focused growth, using jobs to be done. If you can go on the next slide, how does this translate for us into work? We have on the one hand turnkey projects where we are really the one in the lead, and then we do it for our clients. So they have very often innovation ideas, and we sharpen them, or there is an innovation roadmap, and we streamline this roadmap based on the customer perspective. Or there are works like value proposition sharpening, etc. And we do the whole project with the project team on the side of the clients. On the other hand, we also do a lot of inside skills. So we transfer our knowledge to our clients. We do, for example, job to be done project coaching. We have some webinars on the web where we show this, where a team comes to us and say, we have this challenge, this business challenge, we want to apply jobs to be done, and we basically lead them through our process. That's basically what we do. And I would like to jump into jobs to be done now, hand over to Jan to tell what we understand with jobs to be done.
Yes. So because probably some different levels of familiarity, let's say, with jobs to be done is around, could you just open up your chat function and put in a number between 0 and 10 so that we can get kind of a feel of how much we need to talk about it. 10 means you're a jobs to be done expert. 0 means that's the first time I'm hearing it, so that's why I'm here. So we get a kind of a general feel. So there is there's some 7 and 8. There is, all right. I think it would be fair to say there is somewhere around 5 is probably the middle, right? So they know it a little bit, maybe a little bit more than just the name. Okay, that's good. Thank you very much. That gives a great sense. All right, so jobs to be done is something that has become more and more familiar in different circles. It's kind of, I mean, we believe for us, the idea is rather old. The concept has been around for quite some time. The method itself and the popularity of jobs to be done as that phrase with that label, that is something that is rising up right now. For us, jobs to be done is a logic. It's best captured, or it's very well captured by this quote that you might have come across in different contexts as well. But this is a quote by TedLevitt, where he says, people don't want a drill, they want a hole in the wall. And the idea of jobs to be done is making that switch from the drill to the wall. So it's one way of framing human psychology for business, because the people don't want a drill, they want a hole in the wall. this answers the basic fundamental questions of what do customers really want? What do they actually want to achieve? And focusing on this will help you make much better innovations, will focus you much more on really finding what the user cares about and what customers care about, because you don't just make a better drill and kind of get overtaken on the ride by better solutions that address the hole in the wall or the hanging of the picture or whatever then the end goal is. So the job that the customer wants to get done, that is what you should focus on. That's kind of the core idea of jobs to be done. And focus on this and not on making a better drill. You can always make a technically better drill, but that might not be the better solution for the whole. So jobs to be done is exactly that switch, framing it in a different way, framing solutions and technology in a different way to figure out and think about what do customers actually want to achieve. I don't know if you want to add something to this, Beat, but...
Oh, perfect.
All right. Okay. Okay.
Maybe I add to this. I mean, jobs to be done is an old concept. Before it was framed, the term jobs to be done was framed. It was already written. This quote here is from TedLevitt, and it was in the 60s that he wrote. Yeah. He wrote this. And Peter Drucker later invented this name, get a job done. And Clayton Christensen took it up in Innovator's Solution, where he, for the first time, talked about jobs to be done in innovation. And the rest is kind of history. It went into design thinking. It went into all kinds of methodologies. Osterwalder took it up for business canvas and value proposition design. And let's face it, I was working in consumer goods in the 90s, and we were applying jobs to be done. Consumer goods. I mean, what are people trying to achieve? They clean laundry or clean the house. This was all jobs to be done thinking. Yeah.
So this is one very important thing for us that I think we want to get clear is jobs to be done is this logic. It's a way of thinking. And then later on, you have different ways of applying it. As Beat mentioned, you can go much higher in details, and there is different ways of applying it. But it's a core logic that makes exactly that switch. And as Beat has mentioned, some of you might have done jobs to be done without having the label. So that's something that can quite often happen. Okay, now as Carmen has mentioned before, quotes are always nice, and that kind of, okay, you get the basic logic, and then very often what happens, people, they've read the book, they have heard the quote, and then they try to apply it themselves, and what do I actually do? So what are the steps that you have to do? And we will dig into this a little bit in our talk. What we will focus on and structure this is these three things that we want to say, because we claimed in the beginning that we say jobs to be done has something to do with getting customer insights faster. And we will focus on three concepts or three tools, let's say, in our way of applying jobs to be done that will make customer insight discovery faster. The first one is the job to be done hierarchy. We will have a little session on this, and you can try this out. It's a tool that we invented to focus qualitative interviews. So what is actually the scope of a qualitative interview from a jobs to be done perspective? The second one is the concept of job metrics. So that is kind of, will speed up things because you know what you look for in the qualitative interviews. And the third one we want to talk about a little bit is validation. So kind of, in what way can validation help to end endless discussions because you actually have a validation, and how would you actually go about this? Can you do this? And that adds speed to getting insight because you no longer get lost in eternal discussions. So that's kind of the basic frame for our talk today.
Okay, we will show this on a case, a real case that we have done. This is a company called AMC. They do premium cookware, pots and pans and accessories for the kitchen, and it's really high-end stuff. I mean, it's insanely high-end if you look at the price. But they have very good products, a good cooking system. It's a new cooking system, a different cooking system than conventional cooking, working with pots and pans. So the pots look the same than other pots, just high quality, but it's actually a cooking system behind it. And what we have agreed when we did our first projects for them, a customer foundation project, was that we, after long discussions, we said the job that they try to achieve, or the customers try to achieve with their products, is feed my family, basically provide food to my family. And that was really the core job, or the focus job we focused on. Interestingly enough, we have used this job already in a different context for a food company when it was about ready-made food. So feed my family can be served by different solutions, which is typically the drill and the hole. So this was the core job. This is the core job that we worked on. The business situation for AMC was very successful company, growing in many markets in Europe. They're strong in Italy, they're strong in Germany, strong in Spain, strong in Switzerland. It's a Swiss company headquartered in Switzerland, growing in the UK. But then suddenly growth was stagnating. They could not further advance. Innovation pipeline, innovation was always important, but suddenly the innovation pipeline was full, lots of activities, but no priorities. It was not clear what to do next. It was a lot of technology-driven innovation that they had in there. And by doing jobs to be done, we helped them to prioritize and really put focus into this innovation pipeline. Okay, Jan was saying job to be done is a logic. There is a second element to it, is how to apply this logic. And for this, we have a process. And this process we call CFI, or Customer Focused Innovation, and it runs always in the same way. It can be in half a day. So for startups, for example, I do this in half a day, up to the third phase at least, or it can be 3 or 6 months. If you have these large companies with complicated teams, it can take a lot of time. But then it's not really the process that is slow, it's the client that is slow. But anyway, this can go from half a day to 3 months, 6 months. And it's always these steps. It's frame the job in the right way. So whenever you do a job to be done project, framing is key. That's the key area where you can lose time and get lost. And careful framing is important. We have a tool which we call the hierarchy, which helps a lot in these framing discussions. Then there is the discover phase, so very similar to design thinking. You have a discover phase, which in our case is most of the time first qualitative, so in-depth interviews with a few customers, followed by a quantitative phase where we do a large group of customers and want to find out how many in this group find it important and relevant, and how many not important and relevant. So that's discover for us is 2 phases. And then we spin. Spinning is a step that is not very used, very typical, but we found it very important to put it in to link the insights with the business. And we do quite intensive workshops and work with the business to use the results and spin the actions and the innovation towards these results. So this is kind of the process, also the process we've done with AMC. And in all these elements, we optimize for speed. So careful framing at the beginning might take a little bit more time, but you gain a lot of time afterwards. Discover, we have an optimized process for discover, especially because we have clearly defined what we look for. Validate typically is very fast. Spinning is very agile, very lean, workshop type of work. And then there is the develop, which depends on the technology that is in. So that's our process. Today, we mainly focus on the first 2 steps, frame and discover. Jan, would you like to take over?
Yes. So today we'll do frame and discover. We will show kind of how we do this, how you can actually start using jobs to be done. And as Beat said before, one of the key things that we have in the beginning is next to other things that we need to define to run such a project. But one key tool that we use and have to define in the beginning is what we call the jobs to be done hierarchy. The jobs to be done hierarchy, because very quickly, everybody who's tried to apply jobs to be done or started thinking about it will realize, okay, maybe you will get at something like feed my family, or you get at a job like to go from A to B, or whatever the job is that you figure out the customers are trying to get done when they use your product. And very, very quickly, what you realize is there's a whole set of other jobs around it. There are jobs that are a little bit more concrete. We call this the lower how. So you can go from feed my family, you can go a kind of a step down or a step more concrete. It's kind of more towards the solution, to a how-to, where you approach more and more a customer journey. And that's kind of what are the smaller steps, the smaller jobs that they need to get done in order to achieve the whole thing of feeding my family. So that we call the lower how. But you will quickly find that there are what we call bigger whys. So you, from feeding my family, you suddenly find that you, for example, have, well, let's not take feed my family because we'll use the tool later on. You will try to figure it out. Let me show you a different example. Let me show you an example from mobility, so I don't give away too much. Let's say we take the job to get from A to B. So this is something we've worked on different projects with the Swiss Railway. It was is a good client from us. We've done several projects to get from A to B. Just to illustrate the logic. So you go one step down to the lower how, and there you see all the steps that people take when they actually try to get from A to B. A can be whatever. It can be your home. B can be your destination. You plan the journey. Sometimes that is kind of, you do this in your head. You prepare the journey. You go to whatever your means of travel is, even if that's kind of your shoes. You travel. You do actually do the distance. You change the means of travel. Sometimes, not in all the times you go from A to B. You arrive at the destination and you really go to the place. So that's kind of a simplified way of looking at the steps that it takes to get from A to B. There are a few things that are important here. We always try to take out as many solutions as possible. So we say to plan the journey, and it's not saying using an app to clarify my way or something like this. The app is a solution. The app is a drill. To plan the journey, that's the job. In that you can do in memory is another solution, how you plan your journey. So we always try to take out those solutions as much as we can. Sometimes, for example, means of travel, because here it's a Swiss Railway, for example, it's in there. But try to take out as many solutions as you can. Or if you go to the bigger why, you have basically two things: to meet other people. That's why people go from A to B. Or you want to visit another place. You go to a certain place. And of course, you could always go several steps higher as well. Suddenly, bigger whys are, for example, you care for the environment. That's why you take a train. Or why do you care for your environment? You want to be a good citizen. I don't know. So you can go up and up and up and up as much as you like. And that needs careful framing, because you can lose yourself very, very easily in that whole set of customer reality, which is one big mess, let's be honest. And this is kind of a way of framing it and simplifying it. What we want to try out right now is, this is the theory, and Carmen said it before, it's the cooking that makes the chef. I think that was the saying or something like this. So let's try this out. Let's try to map it, and please, so I'll put it in the chat. If you follow that link, you will land on the Miro. So please jump in and you will find here. Yes, exactly. So people are dropping in. Perfect. All right. I think now would be a good time. How many people are there? I can't see the participants.
We have 25 people, but including us, I think.
Including us. So 20. So let's make, so I think we should make some groups of 5. That we do some breakout groups. Let me just quickly, before we do the breakout rooms, explain this. So what you see here is we have 5 different frames where the job to be done hierarchy is in there. We've already written the core job of to feed my family. And what we would like you to do is go into breakout rooms, take the sticky notes, and try to map out the lower how, try to map out some of the bigger whys. And we take some 7-8 minutes. We go into the breakout rooms. We will jump from breakout room to breakout room and just discuss, just try to map this out. It's a first hypothesis, and let's see how this goes.
And Jan, can I say we can do that each group, look at the breakout room number, and then you take that, the canvas, because you have the numbers, so you can do it away. Cool. So Lou, if you could put us into breakout rooms.
I'm gonna create them now.
Victoria was just jumping in. So Victoria, that will be a very fast start for you.
Oh, Beat, I think Beat went to a meeting room, right?
I'm just moving people.
Oh, I think I clicked it away.
I don't know why I selected the automatic and it didn't do it.
I was there, but no one was coming.
Oh, I'm just like quickly doing manually. Is it working?
Okay.
I'm not sure if it's working. How many people are we still?
Oh, now we have 11 participants.
I see 8 in the room. No, we have 8 in room 5.
You see the rooms. I don't see the rooms.
You have 7 in room 4. You have 4 in room. Yeah.
So let me just.
Hi.
I was in a group,
Hello.
so I figured that probably
You
wasn't.
were on your own. That's not the plan.
That was not the plan.
So maybe, somebody's in room 1.
That was me. I was in room 1.
So let me just move people in room 1, and we are in room 5. So I'm just.
All right.
Sorry, guys.
So I can jump in. So Beat and Anna, they are in room 1.
Okay.
So if you put Jeremy into room 1 as well. And I will join.
You can maybe join.
I'll go to 3, I think.
Yes.
But Jeremy needs a breakout room somehow.
I just can't find you. Wait a second. Maybe you can go by yourself, Jan?
Yeah.
I can go by myself. Yeah.
Did you go? Did you want to go to room 3? I think
I will go to room 3.
Yeah. Okay.
I'll go to room 1.
Cool. So we can just get started. If you want to put the camera on. So, yeah.
So breakout room 3 is really working like hell.
So yeah, we just need to get started here.
Thanks for this. It's not easy because if it doesn't work automatically, then it's a hell of a lot clicking.
Exactly, it didn't work automatically. So I'm just trying to understand. Maybe
I'll put a timer on, so it's 20. I say 6 minutes. Or what do you think? Is that fine?
That should be enough.
So I can put a timer in the mirror board, and then on the bottom it says it just counts down, and then we'll call them back.
Guys, you can start collaborating on a room, on a board.
What is meant to happen?
If you want, you can join a breakout group and then start mapping out the jobs to be done hierarchy. So you should have seen a pop-up where Lou invited you to join a breakout room.
I joined it, but I was, well,
No one was there,
I was
yeah.
back to the main room. Yeah, I was back to the main room. Oh, but I have an assignment for room 4. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You should
I'll join you as
accept
well.
that.
I'll go to 4 as well.
You should just accept that. Do you guys have a invitation for a room? I'm gonna move you guys. The people here, do you not want to meet other people in the room? If you want to stay here, it's just fine. I think as a host, I just can't go into other rooms. Otherwise, this room will be basically empty without a host. If you do want to go, just write me maybe a message. Okay, Emma, no worries. And Sophia as well. No worries at all. We just can hang out here, and whenever they are back, they will let us know how it went. So they still have 2 minutes and 10 seconds. So they've got 40 seconds to go. And after that, I'll close the breakout rooms. Oh, actually, they added an extra minute. So if anyone wants to join the rooms, just let me know and I can move you around.
I have helped them. The
Very good.
poor group 1. Next time you can just do random and then it should work.
Yeah, I should have done randomly, but some people actually don't want to join the breakout rooms, so they just stayed out.
Okay.
How was it going? I saw there is another extra minute added to it, so I think people were running out of time.
Well, they were yeah, it was a small group, and I kind of did some one-to-ones with them and helped them a lot. But I think it was good because.
So, what do you think? Should we? I've added a minute or two.
Yeah, I saw
because there was a lot of action, but I think
still 50 seconds. I can tell them get ready to come back.
I would just say we come back in 30 seconds. Then,
yeah.
Because at one time we have to take a break. So
Ryan,
with
how
me
are
was
you?
Ryan is here.
Ryan is here.
Hey guys.
There you are. Hi, nice to meet you again.
Good to see you.
But he's cheating with the picture.
Is he?
Oh yeah, check this out.
Oh, that's somebody else.
Oh, that's great.
So I'll close the room
up.
now.
Very nice.
Oh, sorry.
All right. Welcome back, everyone.
How many did we lose?
Not that many. It was a little bit confusing at the start, as always, but then it kind of went.
Breakout room always get me.
All right. So what I would like to do is would somebody jump quickly on the mic and share a few things, how it went, what didn't work, what the experience was? That would be great if somebody would like to share.
I can share, no problem.
Yeah, please.
So we are group 5.
So oh wow, okay.
And we just we decided to so the post-its are the answers we would have done with potential customers. So we rather researched ourselves, and everyone put some post-its onto the board, and then afterwards we ordered them like in a job map from a pre-cooking phase and the cooking then and post-cooking, where it's like open card sorting, because the green clusters we added afterwards when we had the clusters. What we also found out, sometimes we were not sure where to put it, because we didn't mention the context, but when we talked about it, then it was clear it was while cooking or while eating. So then it was clear that we need to put it to eat, learn, or wherever.
Yeah.
I think this went well. If we would have done these qualitative interviews, we would have gotten that kind of output, even more, of course. And then we had 1 minute left, and we just added the 3 how do you call it? Bigger
the bigger
why.
whys. Yeah. To survive is something that probably that's true. Okay, now that's great. So what I like about this, and I think maybe you've experienced the same thing, is make first hypothesis. Just write all your thoughts down, and then you order, right? Because if you want to have the order first, you probably won't get there. And that's as a first hypothesis, inside out, pure hypothesis. That's great. But as you mentioned it, Wolfram, you have to go out with customers, and that's what we would also do in the process then. But as a first hypothesis, this is a great start.
But one question, this can happen if you don't have the time to go out to customers. So if my manager tells me you have one day, in this case, we also do it sometimes. We do an internal workshop like we did now. And I think what we put on the board is not wrong. It makes sense. It's just not research with real customers, but it's better than nothing. So it gives us some direction.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That is what we do with the startups that don't have the money to go out, basically as a hypothesis. It's very interesting. I mean, we are always, when we do it inside out, and it's a user group that we know, then we are feeling very good about it. And then when we go out, we discover things that we have not thought of.
Yeah.
This blows us away.
Yeah.
I mean, we just had this, and we felt very good. We said that these are the jobs. I mean, we know it. It was about retail. We shop every day.
Yeah.
Then we had the first interviews, and boom, one of the first job was shit. We have not thought about.
Not on the map. Yeah.
Not on the map,
Yeah.
and that's kind of scary. On the other hand, I mean, it's good enough.
Yeah.
Good on. Let's go on. Yeah.
So let's go on. Thank you very much for participating. So as mentioned, so here we are. So this is kind of a simplified version of what we had when in the AMC case, where you probably get a few of the steps that you mentioned in there or there. So this is a simplified view. So up on the bigger Y, you had be valued and depreciated. Here was, I think that should be define, not refine. That's okay. So define my nutrition values. That was an important thing we realized, that everybody kind of has different values they want to actually realize and that figure into how you actually feed your family. You get ideas, you plan, prepare, cook, supervise, eat, and clean up. So that was basically the process that we had. And that was the first hypothesis that we had was different than this. This is the kind of the output that we had after talking to users, after actually speaking to people who use the products of AMC. So we mentioned this before in what at speed. So the first thing, we have this hypothesis, we do the hierarchy, we know what we want to talk about with users. That is kind of the framing phase. We make sure that we cover all the steps we want to cover. And then in the actual interview, this is what we look for. We look for job metrics. That's what we call job metrics. Job metrics are metrics customers use and apply in each of those steps to judge whether or not a certain solution actually helps them get the job done. And it sounds a little bit complicated. It's a criteria that the customers have, and there are hundreds of those, usually around 100, 150 easily for each job, how they measure if a certain product helps them get the job done or not. And we are quite strict on how we phrase these, on how we write these, to achieve a level of concreteness that is actually later on useful for innovation, because innovation is concrete. It is not something abstract. Users are not something abstract. They're very concrete things. Human beings are very concrete things. And this is what we want to get at with job metrics. They always have an expected result or an avoided result. So something that you want to achieve, or something that you want to avoid. There is a unit in there, speed, steps, time, whatever. And there is, if it has to be clarified, a context. So here in one metric is the customers just have when they are using different pans, that stains in the pan are removed as quickly as possible when they are burnt in. So some of us are not that great cooks. There are stains that happens, and that is one of the metrics that customers have. This is what we look for when we talk to users. So when we talk to people in the interviews, we have the hierarchy in our head. We go into each step and we want to dig out those job metrics.
This is
Sure.
This is really an element of speed, because in user research, I mean, you can look for many, many things, and they're all great things, and some of them are really important. But we have really a very focused way, and we consider all the rest as, in the first step, as noise, and we don't even hear it, but we zoom in on these metrics. And the noise we only start to hear when we are complete on the metrics. Then, of course, we use it also for other aspects, but this gives speed. And so we can do 45-minute interviews. We zoom into the job hierarchy. We go into a job step, which we know is empty. And then we go there and we explore, like in this cycle, and we explore, and we only want to hear head metrics. And after 45 minutes, we have a set of 15, 20 metrics heard from the user. We all take them, and then we go to the next interview. So with the remote, we can do now easily 20 interviews in a week, or even more. And this adds speed.
Yeah. So exactly. So this is the basic structure. I mean, there's different ways then on how you get people to say those metrics, but this is the basic structure, concrete, step by step. What do you want to achieve, and what goes wrong? How do you judge what's annoying? How do you know this? And we find those metrics. And as Beat said, we then build this metric system of, let's say, 100 plus of those job metrics, which all are ready to be validated. We formulate these and we add these to the steps. And this is always an instant feedback after each interview. We know, okay, now we have 5 more in the step to get ideas. We have 2 more into supervise. Overall, we only have 3, let's say, into cleanup. So in the next interview, we'll get into cleanup. We'll try to figure out, of course, if the participant can talk about it, but we'll try to figure out what are the metrics in cleanup. And we just want to fill up this whole system to have all those job metrics. So that really, really focuses your qualitative exploration and you don't get lost. I think we will skip this just because of time reasons. Okay. Now you have, I mean, this is nice, but it creates another problem. Suddenly you have 100 job metrics. It is already less than 1,000 insights that are not connected. It's already a system and it's already valuable in itself, but which of these are actually relevant? How do you now know of these 100 metrics of the system that you've established in the hierarchy, which of these are relevant? So let's go a little bit into this. And now we enter into another point that really can make jobs be done faster, which is validation. How important is the job metric to customer? Let's take the one that we had heard before, that stains in the pan are removed as quickly as possible when burnt in. How can you figure out how important that is to customers? There are different ways to do this. So let's say we take that metric. Out of the 100, that stains in the pan are removed as quickly as possible when burnt in. You can do this in the way of let 5 executives debate for 10 days. One says it's not important, the second one somewhat, the third one maybe says it's 3. So on a scale of 1 to 5, you will have 5 executives that can talk for days and days, and they won't agree. The probability that they're right, so the left hand is the probability that they're right, is more or less equal. And that's kind of what we do when we talk in terms of opinions. You can add 6 executives and debate for 20 days on that one single metric, and you will never get it's all opinions. You can do this, and sometimes that's the only way to get forward, but okay, that takes a lot of time. Now imagine you have, and probably you know these discussions, ongoing discussions about what is really relevant to the customer, and there are endless debates on which needs really matter, which of these needs, and we know there are a lot. Humans are complicated, there are a lot of needs, which of these are really relevant? Discussions that will take a long time. The next step we can do is you ask 50 customers, and they validate that in 5 days. And validation means you put on a survey, you ask them to rate it in terms of importance. How important is it to you? So a little bit of statistics, it doesn't get too strange. And if you just ask 50 customers, let's say, you get it right with a certain kind of probability. So if we ask customers on a scale of 1 to 5 to tell us how important is that metric here to you, If you have 50, we'll be maybe, let's say 65 or 75% of the people say, yes, that is really, really important to me. And we'll be right more or less, right? So the true value is somewhere here in the middle. This is I don't even know the name in English. Is it the Gaussian curve? I think. So the Gauss curve, the probability that we're right is in some circumstances okay. Sometimes you don't need to be extremely precise and extremely sure, and it's fine. So the true value will be somewhere in the middle, and with a certain probability we have it right. Or you can even do something like this. You can ask 500 customers and validate it in 10 days, and you will be much more certain that this is the true value out there in the market. And this is what validation means. And if you look at this, you can have much more certainty in an extremely short amount of time. This is also something which in all those digitalization efforts that have been going on with the surveys and so on, you can be extremely quick and be extremely sure and not get lost in debates. So let's take all those 100 metrics. So what we're doing here, asking on the very right, asking 500 customers to validate all of those job metrics, not just this one. We can arrange them along the journey and we get a picture like this. We get what we call the job journey navigator. From left to right is the whole journey that users go through. Each dot that you have here is one of those job metrics. And we here in the survey, we've asked 600 AMC and non-AMC customers. So 600 people have validated this in a very quick, short amount of time. And now we know. Now we know the red line is the importance line for each of these job metrics. So the one here that we use as an example, that burnt in stains in the pan can be removed as quickly as possible. So something is wrong here. Okay, that metric that we showed before with the stains, it's that one. So that one means, so if you look at the scale, it's somewhere between 88% or something like this. The people have said this is very important. Now you know, you don't have to debate it anymore. Another thing that we also always ask is the fulfillment, what we call fulfillment. How well today, with the solutions that they have, the pans that they use, are they in terms of that metric? How well can they remove the stains in the pans that they use? And what you get is a difference between importance and fulfillment. If that difference is high, you know you have to focus on this. Because users are telling you, yes, this is very important, but it's a hassle. I'm not fulfilled yet with this metric. And that's what on one view, after the validation, you know exactly where you have to go, where you have to put in more effort. So in the case of AMC, we found basically those 4 pain areas. So whenever we have a high difference between importance and satisfaction or fulfillment, we're speaking of a pain area. It was these 4: hassle-free cooking, supervision, dirt and burn spots, and storing the pans at the very end of the journey. So you already see where you should put your effort in terms of innovation, not on the front part on the journey, but on the latter part.
And this was very helpful for this company, because remember what we said at the beginning, there was this roadmap full of initiatives. These initiatives were all over the place. They were technology driven. So they were thinking about putting Bluetooth into the pan to do some temperature measure on different levels. They were thinking a lot about recipes, offering recipes so that there is an inspiration for the person who cooks for the family, what they could cook. And basically we showed where the problems are. Clean up dirt and burn spots, supervising the cooking process, hassle-free cooking. And behind each of these concepts, there were very specific metrics, which are really golden nuggets for innovation. So that's the result that we found for AMC amongst the 600 users and non-users of AMC.
Yeah.
And it showed in the next slide where the opportunity was not.
Yeah.
So a clear direction. And this basically led to a focus in the innovation pipeline Oh, very quickly, it was clear which project has to be prioritized and which projects can be deprioritized. It led to definition of key initiatives that really add value. Here are 3 key initiatives that they really focused on. One was the flat pan and glass, so a glass looking through, and a removable handle. Removable handle this could all be supported by the metrics that we found. The glass was a lot of issues in supervision of the process. Before it was a steel lid, and afterwards it was a glass lid, so you could look into it. It's kind of a quick win. Removing the handle, there was a metric saying storage was a key issue. Removable handle, flat pan, not much storage. So this was the 2017 initiatives. Then the 2018 initiatives was a more complicated one. We called it controlled cooking, which was all paying into the supervision. And because it was controlled, it avoided stains, it avoided overcooking. Basically, it addressed clearly the pain points that we identified. It also helped a lot in the marketing messaging, because we could use these metrics as basis for the messaging. We knew the arguments, and the last initiative was end of last year, beginning of this year, is really the core of their system, which they call audio visio term, which is also, which is again helping to supervise via audio signals to tell exactly when the food is ready and so on. So this was basically the outcome of this process. I mean, the development took time, but the definition of the priorities was quick in this case.
Yeah, just to show this as well, so it kind of also then pays out in terms of innovation awards. So they've recently won these 2 awards where they, in all these types of functionality and innovation and so on. So they've won these awards based on what they developed in the past 4 years, I think. So yeah, so kind of see where, when you really pay into the user priorities, it also pays out later on. So just to sum up, these were kind of what we gave you a view of the 3 key factors for speed. Build out hierarchy. You have that hierarchy in there. Take time to frame it, but it really focuses your interviews. You have then the job metrics. Look for them. Be as concrete as you can, because that's where the real value is. Getting abstract is easy. Getting concrete is hard. That's what you want to get at. And then validation whenever you can, because that shortens so many discussions. It shortens so much of the process later on. And then you really know where to focus on and where you put your resources. And the plus, the value metrics, the job metrics that there are, the hierarchy that there is, you can build on this the next time. The next time you're actually going out and talking to users, you can replenish it, you can focus it, you can take a step and go much, much deeper if it fits the project at hand. So this can be a living thing where you can always build on each time that you reply.
This is an important point, which is also paying into speed. We're doing at the moment a project for, again, Swiss Railway Company. The metrics are there. They were all pre-COVID. There is a set of metrics pre-COVID going from A to B. They were all validated. We knew exactly how reality was pre-COVID, but reality has changed. And now we take those metrics and we put it again into validation. We will add some metrics which are probably COVID relevant, like hygiene things or crowd. This is a few interviews. I mean, few, really. We probably don't do even interviews. We just add 5 to 10 metrics, put it into a quant, and by August, I mean, the lockdown was just finished in Switzerland. By August, we have results, and then we do on a continuous basis during this coming back to normal, this new hybrid world. We're doing every month, we're doing a snapshot and a continuous monitoring, and we discuss actions, how to bring the customers back, basically.
Yeah. So that's it. One thing that we want to also say before we go to Q&A, so please feel free to put your answers wherever, your questions mostly, your questions wherever you want. You always still have to, so we put a lot of emphasis of knowing what to look for and kind of focusing what you want to do, but it's always also a balancing act of staying open for surprises. That is certainly the case. Just to say this, but if you focus first and then stay open for surprises, you're much faster than just being very open in the beginning and fuzzy. That will lose much more time. So yeah, that's kind of that's it.
Thank you very much for your talk. So we do have some questions actually. So they are anonymous, so I'm not actually sure who put the question there, but if anyone wants to ask the questions themselves, please go forward, otherwise I'll read them out. So the first one is, how can this research process be done for smaller companies with a lower budget and access to customer?
Probably with limited access to customers, I assume. Yeah. So I don't know if you want to go beyond, but I think we mentioned this in the very beginning. So what we always think in levels. So the process that we have shown here, you can always think in terms of, okay, what's the gold standard? That doesn't always make sense. Even not for the big companies, it doesn't always make sense. And then you can find ways of getting closer to that goal in each step, which is much more manageable. So as we said, as Beat mentioned before, for startups, the whole process can be done in a workshop inside out. What it really depends on is how sure do you want to be. Sometimes in startup cases, you don't have a customer yet. So then you kind of have to imagine it and go on a hypothesis basis. You may have to make sure to include the right people, that you're not too biased. But then again, for a startup, it doesn't make sense to say, okay, we stop for 6 months and we do all the research and we get it. It doesn't make any sense at all. So the same process, the same logic, the same goals that we get in each step, you can do this on a different level of robustness. It's just a question of how sure do you want to be and how much budget do you have. That's true. It's just a limitation.
We say sometimes people reproach us even that they say you're too expensive. But when I look at our projects, they're really going from small to big. I mean, we do projects for coaching is like just a half a day or day, and then we go 8,000 pounds or euro projects, 18,000. A coaching through a team, through a job to be done project, that does not take so much because there are great teams. Teams have a lot of experience with the interviews, for example. If we show them how we do the interviews, they pick it up and then they do it themselves. And then we help to analyze and write the metrics. And then we do quant, and we help them to do the structure, the questionnaire. They do the programming in SurveyMonkey, and it goes out. Then you can do best practice, which is anonymous and recruited based on screener. That's the best practice. That's the gold standard. But it's already better to go out to your existing customers, give them a questionnaire, and have 30 answers. 30 answers from the customer is worth more than 5 senior managers. Or let's say the worst is if you have 2 senior managers, 2 salespeople, and 2 technology techies debating about what is important. I mean, this is so much bias in there. And then you have higher paid judgment. So you have the senior managers who don't have any contacts to the customer. They decide, and off it goes, creating stupid innovation. So that's basically what we say. It's better than to ask 30 customers. There is a rule in statistics that as of 30 becomes really valid. Before 30, it's really still anecdotal. But sometimes anecdotal is better than higher paid judgment. I mean, Don't tell that. Don't tell that to your bosses, but that's how it is.
So does that answer the question? Yeah.
Can I add something to your what you said, Jan and Bert? So I
Sure.
can just confirm what you said at the beginning. So I would just to answer the question from my perspective, I would say just do it in a pragmatic way. If you don't have time, even if you work in a bigger company and you work for a specific team, lower budget means no time. Just do it as you just said. So do a workshop or ask 2 customers and combine it with the insights you have from support colleagues or from sales guys. Put it on a map. Do it as we did some minutes before in 10 minutes, even better than having nothing. So that's what I can just, you can do it anytime.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And can I add something as well? Because I think I agree with that, but I'm a researcher. So actually, jobs to be done, when you do jobs to be done research, it's much more targeted, as Bert and Jan has said. So you might go much faster. And if you don't have time, then really, usually if you're a corporation, you might have the ability to bring core audience, either new audience you after or your existing audience. But yes, go and do this research, because it's not that long, and you will be more targeted, and you can get those results much faster. That will be my recommendation as well.
Absolutely. I mean, we quite often get this when we do the coachings, that suddenly we do these interviews, and the way we do this is, so if we do it, and we show how we do it, this usually is one guy of us does the interview and the other one is writing the metrics in real time, because after a certain time you have the ear for it. And then basically what you do after the interviews, you take it, you throw it in the hierarchy, and that's it. So you synthesize more or less the minute the interview is over. I mean, that's a little bit of an exaggeration, but you get the point. So instead of doing the interviews and rewatching these, and it takes three weeks until you've synthesized everything, if you know what you're looking for, you're extremely fast. That's just and we get this as a feedback that people are surprised how quickly you're kind of synthesizing, and suddenly you have it there. You have the system, you have the metrics, and then you're good to go.
Very interesting. The second question is, what is the difference between jobs to be done and the design thinking process?
I think there is, should I go? Yeah, okay. So there is also a lot of similarities, and just to begin with. I think this more or less this knowing what to look for. So what you could say is design think, at least, so I'm not a design thinker, so everything I say should be corrected by people who actually know what they're talking about. So design thinking, you have this whole phase before, and at a certain point you say, okay, we have a point of view, and that is what we would say is frame and discover. So this first element, you have a point of view, and then you go into the development of solutions. And I think a lot of similarities are in this kind of first point of view. I think what is more or less unique to jobs to be done is that beyond solutions, really going beyond solutions. And that second one is these metrics, they add a level of concreteness that, at least the way I see it, and please correct me if I'm wrong, it is not there in design thinking. We are much more concrete, much more precise in knowing what we look for.
And can I add something, Jan? Because I totally agree. I come from that design thinking background, and I will say there is a before and after for me when using jobs to be done. So I still value the techniques that we have in design thinking, but even if I was using, for instance, if I have time, I still want to go and do a diary study or ethnography. If we have that ability, which is, to be honest, not always the time, the opportunity. So one of the things I love of jobs to be done is that it gives me a tool that I can go faster and get what I get with diary studies, to be honest. And if I can do diary studies, I actually change the way I do them, because now I apply the jobs to be done mindset. So I will say you're more targeted. And that's another thing that in design thinking, we don't have is that quantification. When you have needs, you have no clue which ones are the most important and what is the gap and where the opportunities lie. So I think this one gives something that we don't have in design thinking. You have to guess. And here, businesses, particularly if you're for big companies, don't like guessing. So this way of doing the job brings a thoroughness for a corporation that we don't have in design thinking, I would say, from that perspective. So it gives another tool to a design thinker to actually show to a company where the opportunities lie with an element of certainty to a point, but they like quantitative. So I will say that's another of the advantages. So it's not, to me, jobs to be done are not a substitution of design thinking, but they're an amazing tool to have as a design thinker.
And one element to build on this is, we always say it's complementary. By building this metric system, we are complementary to design thinking, but it also allows to go on the higher level. And this is very useful for branding, positioning, overarching messaging. For example, we can position now AMC as, there was a higher level job in one of the hierarchies about appreciation, valuing the head of the family, recognizing and show recognition. This is a great platform for advertising, for branding. So if you go higher up, we tend to get insights for branding, for example. And if you go further down, you go really almost into customer journeys or even individual processes. This is like, there was a question about when you go down, yes, you can go down, even further. And you can really zoom into a little user process. I think the example was parking, and you can do jobs to be done. And it takes you out of the parking lot, and you don't think about the parking lot because that's the solution to place your car. And then you get to concierge services and wallet services and things like this. That's job to be done. Always this getting away from the solution. That's very helpful.
Yeah. To add to that, Americo is sorry. Was someone?
Wolfram was jumping in, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, but go ahead. So you want?
No worries. You go first.
Okay. So I just wanted to confirm what Carmen said. I think the value in jobs to be done adds value to design thinking, especially in the problem space, because you don't know which problem to solve. And I would never go into the ideation solution space or ideation phase without a proper evaluated, validated jobs area. So I have a lot of needs and jobs. I don't know on which to focus. I validate them, and then I pick the 5 to 10 most important, higher rated ones. And then I go into ideation, and I'm quite confident that I'm working on the right problem. So that's the value that jobs to be done brings into the design thinking area. That's that's how I see it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So America says jobs to be done is more targeted and for specific issues, whether the design thinking is more holistic, very broad issues, and more system level. So that's the contribution on our chat. So let's have a look at our other questions here. So we have some voted ones. So do you already do interviews with customers to create jobs to be done hierarchy, or do you just sit together with the product innovation team?
Yeah, we do. Maybe if I answer this, Jan.
Yeah.
First, we do the job to be done hierarchy inside out as a hypothesis. Then we go into exploration interviews. And in the first few interviews, we validate the hierarchy and we improve the hierarchy. So basically, we hear the first few interviews are about the hierarchy. And we ask them, is this correct? And how do we have to improve it? What's the language we have to use? Are there any steps missing? Are there any steps you don't understand? And so this is typically the first 1, 2, 3 interviews. And then more and more we zoom into the individual steps. So it's really the process: hypothesis, validate with the users, and then go deeper.
Yep.
That was the first question. Then there is a persona question, which we like to talk about personas. Maybe on personas, we've shown you the job journey navigator. This job journey navigator that we showed you was for 600 customers. So it was all the customers that were in the survey. Now we can do this navigator for, and this was reality here, for customers of AMC, of the company, and customers of non-customers. So we suddenly have 2 navigators. And then we can also cut them in all different ways. In a persona way, when we have clear persona questions, we can cut the navigator for persona A and persona B and persona C. We can even find personas in that way through the analytics, and we've done that several times. And suddenly you have these differences between the navigators, which are clearly different, and we say this is a persona, and we look at some profile questions that we ask, and we can profile these personas in a very precise way, and we even know the pain points that they have, and they are different for persona A to persona B. And that gives a lot of sharpness and actionability into personas.
Yeah, I think this is exactly it. So this is, I mean, on the one hand, if you go back to the now I'm actually going to say to read the book. So the inmates are running the asylum. I think that's the book where I forgot the name, but there he Brooks. Yeah, okay, it doesn't matter. But that's a book. There he speaks about goal-directed personas, which come close to what Jobs to be done, I think, is trying to achieve. But Jobs to be done adds exactly those pain points, because you can have the same goals but different pain points, and that's really what makes the people different. What is, at least in our view, what makes personas really different, because those pain points need to be addressed differently. If one set of people just have that pain point, which another one doesn't, you can address that differently, and that turns them really actionable. So that's kind of the.
Can I add something as well, as a, coming from the design thinking background and this, because I know quite a lot of people in the Jobs to be done community don't believe in personas, and they don't want to use personas, and they say Jobs to be done are more interesting, which to a point I will agree, but this comes from the book you mentioning is Alan Cooper's.
Yeah.
And when Alan Cooper is talking about personas, is not using what most people nowadays refer to as personas. For there's psycho segments, and there are too many. When you have personas, Cooper personas, you will have probably, if you're lucky, 3. Sometimes, most of the times, you will have 2, because these are behaviors for a specific product, and different parts of the product will have different behaviors, and really core behaviors. And core behaviors will have, as you said, the jobs to be done. They will have some that they share. They might not be in the same priority, because it depends on the core goals of those behaviors. And some of them might have unique jobs. So I, to a point, agree with the jobs to be done people that said jobs to be done are more important. But to me, there's still value on Cooper personas, core behaviors.
Yeah, I totally agree. Oh, go on.
I would actually say I also know these discussions. You don't need personas anymore. You only need jobs to be done. And I was thinking about this a lot in the past. And, for me, it's clear I combine both, because in the specific cooking example, I would like to know, or I would separate the answers by the ones that have high cooking skills, low cooking skills, that the ones that cook every day or only once a month, and so on. And this makes a difference, because if I mix all the answers into one pot, it's not clear enough. And when I can separate the answers by highly skilled cookers and so on, it helps me even more, and I can provide a feature for the ones that or a solution that cook often, and the ones that have a big family, and the ones that live alone, for example. That makes a difference. And that's why personas or target users, or however we call it, makes a lot of sense for me, at least.
Yeah, and it's also I completely agree. And just adding to this is, I mean, when you combine these two things, right? When you have that knowledge, what are the pain points, and you build a persona around it, which you can describe through behaviors and social demographics, then personas as a tool is a great way to communicate results. Because some look at the navigator and they what is this and numbers and I don't know. And then you put that into a different tool, let's say into a different mode of transporting the findings, and that can be a great way. So personas are a great thing that usually they go quickly within an organization, but that is also the danger if you don't base them on research and actually then yeah, nice pictures float around. But if you combine it, I think there is a really strength to both.
Good. I think we have two more, more questions, but the two next ones are, how can this research process be done for smaller companies with a lower budget and access to less customers? And another one is, how do you recruit for 500 responsive customers in this short amount of time? So I think we can combine them. So how do you recruit so many users and so many people in a short time? And how do you do it for companies that are smaller with a lower budget?
Mm-hmm. Should I or?
Yeah, go ahead.
So okay, so it depends on what customers we're talking about. So especially if you're here in cooking or in consumer goods, where kind of the people that are using the product, there's a large group of society there's out there. There are great tools, agencies or platforms when you can get very quick access to a large amount of people. It gets more and more difficult if you are in niches, if you are in medical, if you are very, very specific kind of user groups in the end. That gets more and more challenging to find that high number of people. In a sense, it's a kind of a combination of how sure do you need to be and how much money do you have. I mean, it's a bit hard to say, but it's true. So money speeds things up. And for smaller companies, I think we already touched upon this. Sometimes it doesn't make sense. So 500 or 600 or whatever the number is, it just doesn't make sense. 100 is better than 60. 60 is better than 30. So that's kind of our approach.
Or you do kind of A/B testing instead of with solutions, you do with metrics. So you make a hypothesis. That's what I would tell startups quite often. We say, okay, we have a hypothesis that we have these 4 metrics are probably pain points. And now let's try out. And let's do messages with the 4, and we do kind of an A/B testing to get signals, which one could be more relevant. There are creative ways around it for smaller companies. Yeah. And frankly, for consumers in panels and so, this is not so expensive.
That's true.
I mean,
there's one question in the chat that kind of maybe fits into this as well, if I may pick that one up by Hillary.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if you want to ask it yourself, Hillary, or if I should just read it out.
Yeah, so no, I have to do. So I was just trying to, a lot of stuff I've done in the past has been looking at kind of more observational stuff, or when people say one thing and actually they're not meaning to mislead you, but they just either don't remember, or maybe they're a bit embarrassed by it, or they haven't really thought about it in that way. I just wonder how you kind of make sure that the responses you're getting are, you're doing so much of asking people to talk about the pain points and on so many criteria. How do you make sure that they haven't accidentally kind of got a bit of bias or forgetfulness or something in there?
Yeah. So I think there is 2 parts to this question. So the one hand is, how do you make sure when you actually talk in the qualitative interviews to users that you get that bias out? And that is kind of the trick of how to do good interviews, right? So quite often we have the first 10 minutes are very important, because then you set the foundation for what happens after, and you have to build the trust that they kind of actually give the right answers. And sometimes you have to ask the same question twice, and there are different techniques, right? So how to get that out when you're talking to users. In the quantitative part, it's a combination of making sure that only the right people are actually answering the questionnaire. So we do this by screener questions. We screen some people out. And then it's kind of the law of the numbers as well. So at a certain point of numbers, you can factor out that bias. So that's kind of would be my response.
And it's always beliefs. I mean, it's in the qual in it's a cognitive process. Like when you fill out the questionnaire, it's cognitive. It's like what you have in your brain. It's not really the feeling. But we use market research tool, and market research is still, I mean, it's the worst method apart from all the others. So that's what the market researchers say, but it gives good results, and there are techniques to make it in quant really a reflection of reality, a model of reality which is pretty precise. In qual, it's really these techniques. I mean, an anecdote, Jan. We just had a project, and we were talking to parents about children who were diagnosed as a baby with a defect, a hearing defect, and this happens 15 years ago. So the children were 15 years, the age of 15, and so the diagnosis was 15 years ago. And we had several cases where the mothers cried, or the fathers. I mean, you can, and we had to stop the interview,
yeah,
because the technique that we use kind of pushed the limits, and we had to stop. So you get a lot of unconscious stuff out by asking it in the right way. And in this case, we said, after the first one, we said we have to be careful. It's such an emotional topic. No, you remember that?
Yeah. No, it's yeah. If there were several where there are techniques where you kind of how to take. I mean, that's what Beat described. Take them back into them in the memories. How do you actually put them back into that situation? And for us, it was at the beginning was a surprise that moment of realizing that the child has a hearing impairment, that it was such a painful moment. I mean, I neither have kids nor with hearing impairment, and that suddenly came out, and then you realize, okay, you have a technique where you get people to say, yeah, where you really open people up. But in this case, I mean, you're talking to human beings. You have to be very, very careful what you're touching upon. Yeah. So.
Can I add as well, from my perspective, I don't know which technique you use, but I use the switch interview, which has a quite particular way of running. I will recommend anyone who wants to really get trained on this. As a researcher, I had to train on this, but I really like this technique because it helps you, and probably you guys use something similar, but it helps you see the inconsistencies. That's something that I did love when I saw it for the first time. And the more I use it, the more I see it. And the second bit for the bias and the kind of anecdotal stuff, I will say, don't do 5 people. With 10, you will start seeing the patterns.
Yeah.
And it is quite, it cannot be that 10 people are biased. You will start seeing that all of them start having, these elements, these jobs. And that's the core thing here. It's like, I think it's quite different looking for needs than looking for jobs.
Yeah.
So we do have another question, a more practical question in the chat. Then we can maybe go back to the slide for another one. So if you want to upvote in the slide in the meantime, we will get one from there. But in the chat we have, I have a practical question. Don, do you want to ask the question yourself?
Yeah, sure. No, it was just a practical, because just the way that you're presenting, because this format is very different to how we many people may present in design thinking. But just how you actually formulate it on the back end, because you're putting a lot of, like, for me, I can just see an Excel spreadsheet with a lot of numbers. Is this how it's done? I just would like a bit of an insight into how you actually formulate this process.
But the Excel spreadsheet, I mean, again, when we do the interviews, the qual interviews, these exploration interviews is, as Jan said, one does the interview and the other one does the analysis, the note taking. And this is simply done on an Excel or on numbers. So basically we have a pre-structure and it's very, very basic. The key is that it's not, we don't write down the noise. We only write down metrics. And the interview has kind of a script. There is a flow in it. So and this is in the spreadsheet. And then we just go through, and the one who takes note listens and says, here is a metric. And the interviewer also listens and says, here is a metric, and specifies until there is a metric. And we try to have the metric repeated by the user, that the user plays it back to us. That's the ideal case. When we do the questioning, we get to a metric that the user says. That's the high art, and it doesn't. And then the metric is so clear that we note it down. So that's very crude tool. And then we have very often, if it has to go fast, we have a third person who immediately after the interview takes the new notes and fills it into a master list where he or she just adds what was new. And after 10 interviews, you suddenly have 150 of these metrics. There's some double in it, and then starts a consolidation process so that we end up and take the doubles out. So this is very practical, but the key again is the ear for the metric. Mm-hmm. In the quant, it's, I mean, yeah, we use this is technical. I mean, it comes back from the survey company in a file. This is lots of numbers. And we have a machine, and we call it a machine, an analyzer where we put it in, and we are then very quick in analyzing it. But you can also do it in Excel. This is Excel work, bit advanced Excel work, I would say. But we have programmed that, so we have a system to analyze it quickly, which we can also use when we do our job to be done coaching. When we coach the team and we go into quant, then they do the quant, they do the survey. Survey comes back from, let's say, SurveyMonkey, the raw file, and then we offer this as a service and say, like, give us the raw file. Okay, we can show you how you do it in Excel, but then you have 2 weeks and a lot of mistakes. And when you just give it to us, we put it into our machine, and we give you back the computed data. Mm. It's part of the coaching offering that we have. Okay.
So yeah, that seems to answer the question. Okay. So can I?
Wolfram, sorry.
No, go on.
Good. Yeah, there is a Wolfram. If you want to ask the question of your
Sorry
side.
to interrupt. That's been answered already before.
Oh, okay.
When we talked about personas, so that's
yeah, I saw a persona, but I thought was was something different.
It was
Lou,
Jan,
should we take? I'm just conscious that it's quite late, and I know that Beth and Jan are 1 hour ahead of us. So, shall we take one last question and then we call it a day? Will that be fair? I think Ryan has one in the chat if you want to take.
So Ryan, do you want to jump on mic? Usually you're a talkative guy.
Good to see you guys again. Thanks for doing this. Yeah, I know you started covering some of this stuff, but I've done this before where, I know you stop at 10. In this case, it was 20 interviews. I was using this really hybrid approach, and we were doing like 20 interviews, like a lot of job to be done, combination of switch plus a lot of different techniques, doing synthesis, affinity mapping, all the like typical we would do, like design thinking, typical interview, plus went to quant and took a lot of those it's not the steps exactly that you guys would do. You guys would write a lot more into the steps and stuff than I was doing. But I found that getting the survey right was really hard, like how I worded things. What I was actually doing is I actually went and did usability testing on the survey. So before we launched it, I went and actually had like people read it. Hey, what do you think this means? And it's like I would get feedback to see if, hey, do they understand what I'm trying to communicate? I'm interested in how you do some of that. But probably the thing I struggle with most, and I'm curious as how you do it, is like all this data comes back, right? It's like, hey, we can segment people, but we can like, I know you started talking about this, but I'm curious as to a little bit more. When I got the data back, it was like, yeah, I could segment people by like they struggle with this pain, like but it's kind of mixing everyone together. If I put everyone in a bundle, the average person struggles with this, or the average person with that. And I found like, hey, I asked these contextual questions around, hey, are they really healthy? Are they really unhealthy? Are they these other contextual questions that really help with segmentation? I'm curious on how you do that, how you manage that. I found myself in like practically in Tableau, like you just drown in all the data. So I know you guys do this all the time. How do you get to the insights quickly and know kind of how to segment, and how do those, one of the things that Ulrich talks about is these segments actually pop out at you from the data. And I'm really curious as to how do you spin the data in ways that to give you, to give in segmentation.
Mm-hmm. So first of all, yes, you can use yourself brilliantly in data, and that is actually one of the dangers, right? So where it kind of starts to trail off as well. So what we've developed exactly because of that reason is we calculate a metric. So we call this CDI, a cut difference indicator. So okay, it's a number that we calculate. There is a way of getting to that number, which tells us very, very quickly from all the questions that we asked, which of these actually cause a difference in the navigator. So basically what we do, like just the concept, we put all those navigators on top of each other's and measure how different they are. And suddenly you see, okay, that question and that question and that question, that navigator, that whole line is different from the others. So it's these 3 or 4 things that actually make a difference in the data. And that can be questions about age, that can be social demographics, that can be attitudes, that can be contextual things, that can be whatever you put in the survey can be then used to actually get a clue on what is actually helpful for segmentation. A second more advanced step is, okay, which kinds of combinations of questions lead to different segments that are actually different? That's a whole other topic, much more, but there are ways to cut this as well, and you have to go on a hypothesis basis. You have to have a hypothesis, because otherwise you can find whatever you want in the data. So, does that help? Oh, sorry, yeah. Yeah,
there is a comment in the chat from America. I mean, you can also do statistical approaches like factor analysis, clustering, cluster analysis, and so on. This is all highly sophisticated, and this is very useful. But we have done this intermediate step of this cut difference indicator, this CDI, because again, it speeds up time. I mean, we get the results back. We look at the CDI, which is basically all the profile questions different. And then we can say, okay, here is segment A, segment B, there seems to be a difference. We don't have to go into cluster analysis. We don't have to do these fancy things which our clients don't understand. And also we have a difficulty understanding this. This is voodoo. But with this,
those are things I surely don't understand either.
Yeah, but I mean, apparently it's true, and there is a science behind it. But the CDI is very clear. We have 2 navigators. How are they different? Are they close or are they different? Huh? Yeah. We do it also on the map. In some other talks, we showed the map similar to Alvik's map. And we have very quickly, in seconds, we know this cut is different from this cut. Male, female, there is a real difference. And then we go deeper and find out where the difference is on the needs, on the metrics. Again, for speed. And then we don't have to do these analytics. but we can just say, imagine you take two navigators, you put them on top of each other. Are they the same or are they different? They look different. Curves are different.
Yeah. So maybe I just give you a hint. So this is then what it looks like. So you have all the questions on the top, all the questions on the bottom, and you quickly get numbers like this. So we can produce this on click, and that's just crisscrossing all the data that there is. And that is the CDI. And the bigger the number, the bigger the difference. And then we know there we have to dig and understand what actually causes the difference. So it's a pretty neat shortcut.
Cool. Thanks, guys.
Very fascinating.
Thank you so much. I'm gonna call this to an end. I will say, Wade and John, clearly there is a need for one event on how we do the quantitative.
Yes.
Because we could go on for like another hour, clearly.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you so much for coming today, because I hope everyone feels that this has been super valuable, even for me. I know about jobs to be done, and every time I see you, I learn new things. So thank you so much. And I would like to say to everyone, Ventbridge run amazing events. We will post how to follow them from when they have events. If you're interested in doing jobs to be done, I totally recommend following them and going to the events. As you see, they talk from the experience, and the insights are always valuable. So thank you so much for today.
No, it was a pleasure. Thank you for having us.
Thank you very much. And thanks everyone to join.
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you. Great
Thanks.
session.
Bye.
See you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.